bet it's a bullet gonna get the last laugh.
At the start of this video, I just want to pay my respects to a Tekken content creator who passed away. According to one of their friends, the police told him that it was due to a seizure. When this news broke on Twitter, so many people expressed sadness, but also celebrated what this person brought to the Tekken world. Another thing that I wanted to cover in this video is a very interesting Tekken tournament that happened in Japan. It was a tournament for the elderly, age 60 to 93 years old. That was the max. The person who won it was a 37-year-old panda mane, first name Yoshi. In the comment sections of this, you had Bandai Namco saying Tekken is for everyone. And even though this is the thing that like some of us kind of dislike about this game is how everyone can win and everyone can button mash, it still is pretty cool that Tekken is reaching so many different type of players and gamers and people all around the world, because that is what it takes to be mainstream, to be successful, and for this game to survive. A lot of people remember the days when no one played Tekken. So the fact that you have a bunch of old people doing a tournament, that's awesome. That's amazing. Not only were all of these competitors interviewed after their matches, actual trophies were presented as well to mark their achievement. I love this picture here of the two grannies taking their poses, repping their characters. That's me in like 80 years. Now, on the topic of tournaments, we do have EVO quickly approaching, and there's one person who is setting up a very interesting tournament. We always talk about how we love Legacy Tekken, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Tekken 5, Tekken 3. Harada re-released the games or do a collaboration edition or something like that. And Harada always talks about how there's low demand. There's no one who really wants these games or these game modes. And we have subtle moments here and there where we can prove them wrong. And this is one of those moments. At EVO, I'll read it from the tweet. It says, Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Tekken Tag Tournament 2 will both be at EVO Vegas BOC 2025 events, kicking off the festivities Friday. You can see the times here, and the top 4 will be awarded medals for both games. So if you're going to EVO, just play a little set, show Harada that we really care about these games. Form a long line, form a crowd. If you're just going to watch, just watch. But support this event and support older Tekkens, and one day Harada maybe can release it. But on the main topic of this video, we have the official numbers for EVO. And these numbers are scaring a lot of players. Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, the numbers are looking a little different this time around. We know, just going off of history, Street Fighter is always the biggest fighting game out, followed up by Mortal Kombat. Really, when you talk about the cultural significance, those two games go neck and neck. When you talk about their cultural significance, Tekken is kind of forgotten. A lot of us would argue maybe this is just the Tekken player coping, but if Tekken did better collaborations like Fortnite, things just to reach a wider audience, maybe the brand could be more alive. But regardless of that, even though Mortal Kombat is ultra relevant, it's at the bottom of this list. Mortal Kombat only had 377 players show up. Now, keep in mind that they did say that the game is over. No more updates. I think they will do some patches, but they're not releasing any characters. They do have that movie. They dropped a trailer. It got mixed reviews. But Mortal Kombat is a very powerful brand. But when you talk about its competitive force, it's just not existent. And it's really interesting because it should be. It could be. It's Mortal Kombat. Why is it so low, and why is the developers okay with this? I guess they're really just happy with their casual audience, their quick sales on launch, their DLC follow-up sales, and then that's it. Following Mortal Kombat, you have a lot of the anime games, Under Night In-Birth, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That game is standing the test of time and then ceases to fall. You have Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising. That's a crazy name, but that game's doing well. And then you have Guilty Gear Strive. This game, I wasn't too familiar with the franchise until Strive released, and the successful release that game has had. It had a massive player base and a long-lasting one. This game has held third place for almost like 4 or 5 years straight, and it's only been dethroned now by Fatal Fury City of Wolves, and only by about 60 players or so. So those two games may go back and forth. We're going to see if Fatal Fury can stand the test of time like Guilty Gear Strive has. You know, there is this conversation around Fatal Fury where when you look at the numbers on Steam, it's nothing, but we can't see what it's doing on consoles. That's kind of the big thing for all of the fighting games or just gaming in general. If we were able to see the PlayStation numbers, we will be able to better judge how successful these games are. But when you talk about Tekken specifically, we know that more than half of the player base play PC. So when we see those numbers move, we can roughly guesstimate that same impact is happening in PlayStation, which makes up about 40%. Xbox makes up about 7%. Considering that Xbox is dying, maybe that number died down a little bit to like 6, 5. I don't know. But when you talk about the top two games at this EVO, you have Street Fighter 6 in number 1 with 4,228 players. And then you have Tekken 8 with a little bit over half at 2,521 players. Now, when you compare this to last year, it's shocking. Street Fighter 6 had 5,264. Street Fighter had 5,265, so they lost about 1,000 or so. But Tekken 8 had 4,646. So the same way that we saw their player base numbers on Steam kind of get cut in half, sitting at that 9,000, now they be hovering around 6,000. Since Fahrenheit update came out and the game is moving back in the right direction, they're moving up to 7,000. But when you talk about them losing so many players online, we kind of see a similar thing happening here in tournaments where half of the player base is not showing up this time around. Now, what you could argue as well is maybe it's the EVO price. The price of EVO this year is like 400, so it's pretty expensive, and this came at a shock to everyone, and maybe a lot of people couldn't make it this time around. But when you compare the numbers from 2025 EVO, 2024 EVO to 2023 EVO, this is when Street Fighter 6 first released and they were at 7,000. Massive. This is still when Tekken 7 was cooking and doing its thing, and Tekken 7 in its final year was surpassed by Guilty Gear Strive and had 1,580. Even though Tekken 8 is in a rough spot, it is still doing better than Tekken 7 was at its end. And this is even true if you go further back in time with Tekken 7. Now, we don't have the numbers because EVO had a different format back then, but when you look at the leaderboards here, you can see that Tekken 7 was 4th place. King of Fighters, Street Fighter 5, and Guilty Gear Strive was number 1. So that game was number 1 on its debut. When you tackle the subject of whether or not this is bad news for Tekken and should we all panic, me personally, I don't think so. Even though Tekken 8 is in a dire situation right now, and you could talk about the things happening on Twitter with the developers and how it's kind of getting worse, players are getting really frustrated, I still think the game is moving in the right direction, and as long as they continue to put out good updates, the game will get better eventually. As long as they do not drop the ball any further, I still believe this game can be salvaged.